Hello everyone, this is the IFC Architect, and this video is a bit late, unfortunately. Today we're going to be going over the BlenderBim stable release add-on for version 23.11.04. It's been released with 405 new features and fixes, and it's our built environment, helps support the BlenderBim add-on 100% free, and you can get it today from the BlenderBim.org website. So we can just click on that. And you can see here, and you can just click on this button to get the latest version. So I can click on that and it will begin downloading, or rather you'll get to this page. You can see the M1, the Max Silicon version has been updated to have M2, so just choose the appropriate one for you. I have Windows, so that's the one I will download. Apologies for the delay for this. I had two good reasons for this. The first one is Blender 4.0. It was only released on the 14th of November, and then I got sick. So unfortunately, those are the two reasons we have a bit of a delay. But we're going to get going on it now, and yeah, the next time we'll see an update will be in the new year. So unfortunately, this release, the total number of bugs have been climbing, and not everything we wish to achieve has got done. It just means there's a ton more people using the tool, and it is being tested and adjusted every day. Despite this, we hope you enjoy our hard work done by the entire community. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Dion. A huge thank you to all the developers, testers, users, and financial contributors. You are making this happen. You are changing the industry. Absolutely. Okay, deep breath, get ready, go. So here is the splash screen for BlenderBim. You created using AI. You can see the bunnies, and it was made by Carlos Villagrasa. Which isn't the normal one. So this is the one reason I delayed this video, is because Blender 4.0 was not officially released yet, and now it is. And you can see in the next week or so, a number of compatibility issues have been addressed. Note that there is still an upstream in Blender where copying node trees from one shader to another is no longer working. This has been reported to Blender, but it's resolved the feature for external material shaders to work. If this is important, you can use Blender 3.6. Other than that, feel free to upgrade to 4.0. So if we go here, you can see in the bottom right, I'm using Blender 4.0, and then you can see the version for BlenderBim over there, 23.11.04. So it works, go for it, use it as much as you like. All right, moving on. There's been a lot of progress on the MEP modeling, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing modeling. So they've added support for creating bends, circular and rectangular profiles using add fitting in one of the BIM tools, or using add bend explicitly. It's still getting polished, but they already should work in most cases, including support for different bend directions and radius. So you can see there's a nice little GIF showing two things being selected and two ducts being selected and the bend being automatically joined between them. So if you have like a normal BlenderBim file, you would start with a blank canvas like this. And for the most part, I would say just go to File, New, and choose one with the demo project. That should load a kind of default project with a set of libraries in it. It doesn't come currently with any, so these are the types. It doesn't currently come with any ducting or piping types, but we can just create those. So all we need to do is click on Create Element, click on this little waffle grid here, and then on this drop down, we got to navigate to IFC Duct. And we can say IFC duct fitting type, or segment type, or silencer type, depending on your thing. I'm just going to go with IFC fitting type. And we're going to say create a new type. And then here you want to choose the type. So I'm just going to call this let's say a connector. And we're going to choose a rectangular distribution segment. And I'm just going to call this rectangle 1. And I'm going to save that new type. Oh, I did it twice. I'm just going to get rid of that one. And then we're going to go to the duct tool here. And you can see it's found a type. So we just say add duct segment, and it's been added to the roster here. And all we need to do is say Shift A, and you can see it's been added there. So I've made a mistake already. I've added it outside of my file collection. So I'm just going to delete this. So I'm just going to press X and delete. And I'm going to turn on my screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. We're just going to select the My Story and we say Shift A, and there it's been added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one. I'm going to say Shift D to duplicate, bring it along the X-axis, and then rotate it 90, and bring it along the Y-axis. So press N, we're going to go to Tool, we've got the rectangle tool, and you can see there's a series of functions available to us. So the first one is extend. So wherever you put your 3D cursor, so I press shift and right click and I can move my 3D cursor, and I can say shift E and it will extend in line with that. Basically, we can make it whatever length we want. This works exactly like the walls. It's very intuitive. And then you can see there's add fitting. So if I put my 3D cursor on this edge with the duct selected and I say shift F, it adds a fitting on the edge of the duct. I'm not an HVAC engineer, so for the most part, my knowledge of where this needs to go is pretty limited, but I'm just demonstrating the tools that are available for now. And then you can see there's regen MEP. So this is essentially if you want something to, if it's not displaying properly, you can just say shift G and it should regenerate to the right position. And then underneath that is add bend. So for this, you need to select shift and click both, and we can click add bend. And then you can see it's added a bend join in between the two right there. That's quite useful. We could add another one of these and just say shift D, bring it in the X direction, rotate it in the Y direction, -90, GX to bring it here, and then just lift it GZ a little bit. And this one I'm going to bring back a little bit, shift E. And then we just select both of them and we can say add bend, and it adds a bend there as well. So the tool set is becoming quite usable for native creation, but I'm not certain how useful it is for editing at the moment. All right, so the next thing we want to do is add a transition. So we can just select both of these. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm actually going to make it a bit shorter because it's a bit too long for me. I'm going to select this. I'm going to say shift D, Z, bring it in the Z direction, select both of these and click add transition. And what that does is it just creates a transition between these two elements. All right, so I'm just going to go here. I press 7 on my number pad to go to the plan view. And we're just going to add a new one there. And I'm going to add a new one there. And I think I'm going to select that and say add obstruction. And it'll add one to the end there. And if I say click that again, click on the side, say add obstruction. Okay, yes, it'll add one there as well. So it looks like if you press add fitting and add obstruction, it adds a similar kind of element. If we go here, we can see this is an IFC duct fitting obstruction. And this one at the end here is a duct fitting. Okay, so they're functionally different things. And then there's add void, which is as simple as using it in the wall. In this, I suppose it would be to, when things are obstructing the ducting, you need to create an opening. So you just select the pipe you want to add the void into, the duct, sorry. And then you snap your 3D cursor, shift and right click to where you want it. And then you can click this add void button, or you can say shift 0 and it will add an opening, which will cut through it'll add a void, which will cut through the duct. So what you need to do is you need to shift click on the duct itself and say apply void. And there you have your opening. So you can edit this quite easily, just like the walls. We just need to click on the visibility, void visibility. We select the void, we press tab, we press 3, and we can say GX or GY rather to bring it further. We can press tab, we say OK. Then we need to select the duct and we just click the tick, and that will save the edit. All right, that's it as far as I know. Yeah, I think so. That's it for the ducting. MEP tools are now getting more accessible. They're available in the BIM tool menu. We've also added a new one that connects elements by their closest available ports. In some cases now there is no need to show ports and connect them explicitly. All right, let's add a pipe. So I'm going to show the other two duct profiles. So we're going to go here, click on the waffle grid. We've got duct segment selected. I'm going to stick to rigid. I'm just going to change the different profile. And I'm going to call this, so it's circular. I'll just call this circ1. Then save the new type. Oh, I did it twice again. And then we're going to create one that is a hollow. So I'm just going to call this CHD1 as well. Save the new type. So I'm just going to add, so I'm going to select circular one. I'm going to say Shift A. And then it's been added in between my, my ducting there. So I'm just say GY to bring it here. And then I'm going to add another one for CHD, Shift A, and I'm say GY to bring it here. So you can see the difference between these two. This one is a hollow section, and that one is a closed circular loop. And then I think these work exactly the same way as the ducting. So I'm going to say Shift D, X, Y, rather, rotate Z, -90, GY, GX, select both, and then I can say add bend, and it will create a bend between the two pipe segments. And the same thing for this guy. Shift D, X, or Y, rotate Z. I mean, I suppose it can just be any arbitrary angle, so it doesn't have to be exactly. I think this is just overshooting, so I'm just going to bring this back, Shift E, and then select both of them and say add bend. And then it works perfectly. All right. So you can do any arbitrary angle or direction you want, and it should work fine. Okay, moving on. Yes, the pipe tool's going to be quite similar. So we're going to go to the initial BIM tool, because there's no pipe segment here. Or I suppose we could add it as a pipe segment. The CHD one, and then yes, it works exactly in the same way. So now this is a pipe segment instead of a duct segment. And it works in the same way. The tools are pretty similar. So I just Shift D, duplicate, rotate in the Z direction, and then make sure there's a gap between the two. And you can add a bend. And yeah, they work in the exact same way. All right, moving on. There's also now basic support for MEP element decorations. It shows line decorations for currently selected elements or currently active system. You can also see the flow direction visually, and adjust it without jumping to ports just by having two elements selected. Okay, that's quite dope. So what you need to do is you need to go to systems, and you need to go and tick should draw decorations. Then you need to select IFC system. You need to add it there, and then select the ports you want to be part of the system, and just click the plus button to add it, and it will display the flow direction. So we can make another system, I suppose. We edit the first system, so this is called IFC Duct. Second system can be this plumbing. Just add it here. Okay, moving on. You can see it's quite cool. The next thing is IfcFM is now ready to use. Common task on larger projects is to deliver asset registers and digital operations and maintenance manuals using standards like Kobe. Previously, we offered a tool known as IfcKobe with features to do this, but it was unfortunately an incomplete implementation, and being one of the earliest offerings had many bugs and mistakes, which we've now addressed. You can access IfcFM via the command line interface library or in the facility management tab in Blender. So if we go to this little kind of file folder, this is where the facility tab, management tab is. IfcFM is now completely rewritten to offer a generic way to create tabular asset data with strict adherence to standards like Kobe 2.4, Kobe 3, AOH BSM, and novel vanilla pure IFC approach. To read more, check out the documentation in collaboration with Emma Hooper from Bold Digital, one of the leading experts in Kobe delivery. We have been carefully addressing many of the ambiguous or incomplete nooks and crannies in these FM specifications to ensure that we offer the most valid, strict compliance for users. Alright, you can see the export you can get out of this. Like IfcCSV, IfcFM supports ODS, XLS, CSV, and Pandas data frames. There's a generic code structure such that you can easily write your own conversion if required for your project. It also supports federating multiple sheets, such as multi-discipline models, into a single spreadsheet, as well as a bulk processing multiple models. This now means that IfcKobe is finally deprecated, And older libraries like XLS Writer and are deprecated as well in favor of new ones like OpenPyXL. It's very cool. Continued progress on UI improvements. The previous release had a huge UI redesign, but not everything made it in time. We managed to make a bit more progress with this cycle. The active drawing settings UI had now been migrated from the camera tab into drawings and documents tab. So that is, if we open these little papers, this is our drawings and documents tab. So you need to save the file first, then you can click on the load drawings button, and I'm just going to create my story plan. And then just select that, and you can see over here, these settings at the bottom here used to be found in the camera icon over here in the data page. It used to be here, but now they've been moved into the correct place, the drawings and documents place. So here you can adjust the width of your drawing. I'm just gonna hide that. You can adjust the width, you can adjust the height, and you can adjust the depth. So you can make it whatever you want, and the scale is here as well. And then underlay, annotation, and line work are all present as well. So we can just create this drawing, and then you can see our ducting and piping work with our bends and our cut portions. Alright, next one. The settings to change drawing size have been redesigned and consolidated into a single area to easily edit drawings width and height, as well as raster DPIs rather than messing around with absolute pixel values. The drawing system is now more forgiving of manual deletion of properties and is more flexible with respect to manual editing of layouts and sheets in external software. Yes, that's excellent. There's also a new placement panel in the Geometry and Materials tab. This consolidates coordinate rotation and derived coordinate data, which was previously spread around. The Material and Profile panels are also moved into the Geometry and Materials tab. Alright, so let's check this out, the Placement and Coordinates panel. So if we go to Geometry and Materials, which is this little round ball, we've got Placement. So this can tell us if we've transformed things, so you can see there's a rotation in the Z and X direction. The Material and Profile panels has also moved into Geometry and Materials tab. So we can close that. So here's the Material panel and the Geometry, or the Geometric Relationships panel over here. Right, moving on. The Duplicate Systems panel has also been merged. There's also a new Zones panel separate from Distribution Systems. Right, so we saw that 2 seconds ago. If we go to our Services and Systems, there's a Zones panel here. Actors, users, people, and organizations are now grouped into the Stakeholders section. Alright, over here in the Project Overview tab, there's Stakeholders, where you can have people, organizations, owner, history, and actor. So I can add a person, I suppose. H. Selden. Let's call my architect. Family name. Architect. Given name. IFC. Let's save that person. And then we can add them as an actor or an occupant. So I'm an actor. This is name, unnamed. I'm just going to call this architect. And there we go, we've added a person. Alright, work in progress redesign of material and style management. The prior material and style system was mixed in various locations in the Blender interface, blurring the lines between rules and capabilities of Blender materials and IFC materials and styles. This led to a huge amount of confusion in both real and UX bugs. So now it is here. So materials and styles are right next to each other. A start has been made on a completely new material and style system with some basic support for adding editing, shading, and rendering styles. You can also specify names when adding materials and associate unassociated styles to materials. When this is complete, it will completely override the vanilla Blender Materials tab and offer a much more truthful representation of material and style assignments. There you can see a series of materials added and a series of styles added here as well. There's also a new representation items panel which does not do much currently apart from indicate geometry types, but will later be used to assign styles, supports, shape aspects, material constituent links, shape aspects, and presentation layer assignments. Okay, moving on. It's not recommended to use the new panels for authoring. New BSDD integration for classifications. Building Smart Data Directory is a cloud service that acts as a centralized cloud database of classifications, materials, and properties. There's now an initial implementation which integrates BSDD. So instead of loading from offline classification libraries, you can now select a BSD service and choose from an online classification. There is another YouTuber, BIMVoice, who has done an excellent video on this, which I'll just go get now. But BSDD is very powerful and it's quite amazing. Classification in the BSD can include relevant properties that need to be set whilst assigning classification reference. This is also implemented. This work was presented in the Building Smart meetup in Norway. In addition, the popular unit class classification library has now been updated to the latest July 23 edition with a generic script available to generate any required unit class version. It should be noted that unit class classification system available on the BSD is currently outdated. There we go. He's got 2 videos on BSDD. So I say go watch those. They're pretty good. He just shows how powerful it is. And then he did his own update video for the latest Blender version. Alright, file association on Windows. Just like on Linux, double-clicking files on Windows Explorer will not directly launch BlenderBim add-on as a viewer. To enable this, open the add-on preferences window and follow instructions. Yes, so you can see I've got 2 IFC files here that have little Blender icons. So if I double-click these and be opened by BlenderBim as an IFC file, which is super useful. I'm just going to show this quickly where it is. So we go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons. Just go type in BIM. You go down here, associate BlenderBim with IFC files. So you click that and it will sort you out, basically. So let's go to the other one. You can see I've got an MEP file open here. It is correctly categorized and all my IFC elements are retain their information. All right, the next one, more IfcPatch recipes. IfcPatch got a number of new recipes and improvements to existing recipes. The reset absolute placement recipe can now only affect placements, geometry, or both. There is now a recipe to fix Revit bug with a hard-coded uniformat classification system. Another recipe fixes another Revit bug where classifications are placed on the current instead of types. There's also a new purge data recipe to purge IFC metadata and relationships. So IfcPatch recipes are quite powerful and they're often the workaround to get things to work how you want them to. Eventually, I'm sure these will be incorporated as buttons in part of the UI in the future, but they're quite strong. Behind the scenes, a lot of work has been happening in the underlying IFC OpenShell library, with compiler warnings being addressed and CMake build cleanups. Similarly, PyPI distribution has improved metadata, prevents installation on unsupported platforms or Python versions. As part of the new Cesium ecosystem grant, IfcConvert now has support for Earth-centered EarthFix GLTF, which is amazing. There is also now support for IFC 4x3 edition 2, which is one more step towards the final ISO version of IFC 4x3, which is incredible. More documentation. As with all the releases, documentation is being increasingly polished with a new introduction section teaching the basics about IFC and BIM, updates to IFC CSV and selector syntax page. There are also new sections of IfcFM and IFC Kobe removed. The BIM server plugin, BIM tester, BSDD library, IFC Max and BCF API documentation is now written for the shape calculation utility module and placement module. All relevant images in the beginner's tutorial have also been recreated with the new user interface, which is excellent. And so much more. It's hard to capture absolutely everything that's changed, but here are a few more stragglers. Array handling was improved and got more natural. Array duplication automatically produces a new array. Arrays can also be duplicated partially, only selected layers. You can also remove layers of array just by selecting and removing its elements. All array constraints are now loaded when you open IFC in BlenderBim automatically. Critical bug fixed where drawing elements filters for individual global IDs don't have any effect. I can't really demonstrate that because I haven't had that issue. We've defined a way to mark in BlenderBim manual openings. You can pin down booleans in boolean sections so they won't get lost if profile material-based object gets regenerated. Lots of representation issues were fixed that you may or may not have noticed. There is now a prioritized list of geometric context that determines load order. Okay, that's interesting. I haven't seen that. I don't think that's available to adjust, but that's quite interesting. Similarly, native element loading has been completely rewritten, which now handles mapped items a lot more robustly. Very good. It's now possible to add openings to non-profile based meshes with new support for IFC Void featuring feature-based openings. Okay, let's try that out. So non-profile based would be like just a normal generic thing. So I'm going to add Shift A, mesh cube. There we go. GZ. And then I'm going to turn it into an IFC object. So I don't mind this being whatever, but I'm going to say building elements part, or building element proxy rather. So just make an IFC element. Building element proxy, assign. And then I'm going to add an opening here. Open my toolbar, go to the create element and say Shift O. And then select our object and say apply void. And bam. Okay, cool. That's very, very useful. Right, fix the ability to duplicate grid axes. The facet selector is now more stable when using specific characters and is now used in advanced mode model loading. New function improvements include better imperial formatting, fixed number rounding function, and new substring function. That's why my stuff broke. Okay, text annotations now use formatting functions instead of arbitrary code execution. New annotations for dynamic XYZ or easting, northing, and elevation values. The number of fixes to casting to tessellation, splitting elements by plane, and resizing to story, which are all common cleanup operations when preparing for 4D animations. Fixed critical bug for inability to create slabs in IFC 2x3. Various UX improvements to the spatial manager. Yep, that's for sure. You can see it over here, over here. Lots of new functions, and it's just a lot easier to use. Fixed inability to add inherited p-sets, random truncation of property set names, and live editing of property set templates to prevent the need to explicitly save. Very good. IC can now visualize across IFCs and will forgive invalid geometry. Various fixes to Microsoft Project XML calendar imports. Excellent. A number of date calculation bugs which have been fixed when cascading schedules and calculating critical paths. Resource costs are now inherited from parents, and an improved template for resource CSV imports. IFC tester reporting is now more detailed, describing data type areas and percentage passes per requirement. A crash was fixed in the IFC tester UI. IFC tester property audits are now twice as fast. Great news for huge model audits. Excellent. Native meshes now automatically enabled with dense meshes are enabled for faster loading out of the box. Great. New debug mode to override display. Excellent. New IFC tool to separate meshes into multiple objects to replace the built-in Blender separate object. Interesting. Fixed bug where flipping walls connected to roofs and slabs would fail. Fixed crash when opening SVG drawings on some folders in Windows. IFC 2x3 fallback georeferencing presets are now available out the box. Geolocation module and utilities now support 2x3 fallback method. You can now flip beam origins. That's fun. Let's make a beam. Beam 1, Shift A. Extend, edit axes, flip. Look at that. Okay, very useful. Selecting similar predefined types now takes inheritance into account. Brilliant. The shape utility now supports calculating projected surface area. Very good for paint, with fixes to overlapping projections. You can now select objects colored by a color scheme. Very cool. Fix multiple bugs and regressions related to material lists. Improved UI for covering tool and new feature to generate 4 coverings and regenerate it. Here's the covering tool, which looks a lot better. Fixed bug where native meshes had normal smoothing. The get pset utility function now has a verbose mode to get IDS and classes for complex processing. Excellent. New preference to customize the app used to open sheet layouts. Edited map profile now works. Excellent. Fixed critical bug where editing shared properties didn't independently impact that single pset. IfcCSV now supports list concatenation. Excellent. And you can find all the changes here on the GitHub page. All the commits. There's been quite a few since then, and I'd really recommend people getting a newer version of BlenderBim. Thank you everybody who has contributed to the commits. Everybody's fantastic. And thank you to all the donors. This list is getting longer and longer, and the better we can do, the better it gets. Thanks everybody. That's a wrap. Hope that was helpful.